Hello, welcome to Section 7, Globalization and Politics. Governments have the ability to control this race by multinationals to devour resources and make large profits. Collective action is the only way to control this behavior. You can prevent the unreasonable behavior of a few and ensure stability for all. There are plenty of global institutions and policy-making tools in place. We can look at the World Trade Organization, the G20. G20 is an informal group of 19 countries and the European Union. They have representatives of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The United Nations and more organizations have been formed to govern activities. If global institutions have the potential and governments have the ability to take collective actions to deter the misuse of resources and humans in these other countries. It is the belief of many professionals that the politics of globalization must be revisited, reassessed, and revamped for this new era. As globalization transforms the world, society and nations are becoming more and more wary of their efforts. But still, no one in any country, Spain, Brazil, China, who is benefiting from the new technologies is ready to reverse progress, so we must look at the situation a little closer. Globalization drives competition up and consumer prices down. The more consumers desire natural resources, the more competition there is. The more consumers want, the more multinationals strive to meet the desires of the public. But the public's appetite for these things threatens the limited supply of natural resources and undermines the stability of the global economy. The drive to satisfy the consumer has to be tempered with the necessity of the government to temper the drive of big businesses and to satisfy the customer at all costs. Free trade drives innovation, but there must be rules that keep that drive in check. Everyone touts free trade, but someone has to pay for free trade, and the government must ensure that free trade does not cost the environment. We all recognize there are trade-offs, but the government must take a stand. All governments must take a stand and let these large companies know what is expected of them and what price they have to pay if they do not adhere to the rules. The rules must be clear-cut, not some opaque regulations that can be bent at the whim of an organization. Even though a multinational can raise the standard of living in a country, that country must have a strong government that clearly defines what that company can and cannot do. As global competition grows more intense, each country is trying to provide tools to protect their citizens. Russia has set up a sovereign wealth fund, and it subsidizes private equity investments. This means that they want a lot more of their innovation to come from within. China has added rules that fall under the heading of national security. They want to keep technology within their borders. They're trying to stir up the technological community that is within their borders. Australia has revised its takeover rules that limits the amount of resources that an outside company or country can hold in Australia. We must recognize that the economy has moved far beyond the control of any entity, and this should give us cause for concern. Governments must step up and provide structure, control, and guidance. We must not allow international business to rule the world. And that's what happens if international businesses go unregulated. When large financial institutions grew larger than the regulations, the next thing we saw was a crash. Therefore, the financial crisis that we're in, and we discussed earlier in the lessons. Controlling big business is the defining problem for 21st century politics in the developed world and in the undeveloped parts of the world. The poorest country will be the most likely harmed by any clash of interest among the more developed countries. So we have a duty to consider their interests in any decision we make. There are reasons that there's a need to improve the politics of globalization. Institutions are in place to shape globalizations along with a whole array of public tools that aim for greater security. But you know what? We have not tapped the potential of the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the G20, the World Bank, and especially the World Trade Organization. We don't use those tools enough. They're underutilized. The World Trade Organization is the only global organization operating in an economic sphere that sets multilateral binding rules and also provides mechanisms for disputes and settling conflicts. The World Trade Organization has to help raise the bar in the global community, take the lead, and then they need to generate growth, and at the same time they need to work to reduce poverty. States have surrendered more to the power of the World Trade Organization and the G20 over the last 50 years than any other system or institution. So it must be used. There should be a rule of thumb. What's binding on all should be better for all. Governance of the trading system can even go farther. Bilateral free trade agreements have opened trade in the global community over the last 20 years, but they do not have the ability to do what multilateral agreements can do. The World Trade Organization should be given the authority to police free trade agreements. They must ensure that they're fair and transparent. And we have to exact a price for failing to deal in an open and transparent manner. The West must compete in the global economy through specialization and sharing and by giving added value to everything we do. Developed nations can still maintain their share of the world market by making more sophisticated products and incorporating technological prowess at every stage. They need to compete more on quality rather than price. It is hard to conceive of an intelligent response to globalization that does not involve collective action. One of the biggest misconceptions about globalization is that it forces us to make a trade-off between collective action and social protection and competitiveness. This is not the case. Globalization does not make strong social protections untenable. If anything, it makes them more essential. Putting globalization in context, it's a powerful trend, but hardly the cause of everything bad or good in our economies. The flexibility of a lot of models that enables workers to participate in the labor market and move confidently between jobs has kept unemployment levels low in some countries. We must learn how to institute that throughout the world. Social programs help people adapt and thrive. A society that ignores preventive cares leaves individuals to cover the cost of health care or unemployment, and it's an insecure society. Globalization can play its part in making societies more secure. The main challenge we have is one of balance. Government cannot become a monolith. The desire to see businesses behave ethically cannot become suspicious of business in principle. Government that develops the capacity of citizens to do more than sink or swim does not need to stifle competition. Competition is necessary. The case for politics and globalization to work hand in hand to make a better world is not a new case, but it's an ongoing case, and it's one that calls for more attention. Thank you very much.